There comes a point when a car reaches a certain age. At 25 years old, it's no longer a car, it's an antique. You don't drive it to work, you don't take it shopping. No, you're supposed to pull it off the road, clean it with expensive microfiber towels, and preserve it for future generations.
That.
The BMW E30 is one of the best driver's cars in the history of the automobile. The name E30 refers to the internal chassis code that BMW gave to the 3 Series, sold in various forms in America from 1984 till 1993. It's the car that cemented BMW's ultimate driving machine reputation, but it didn't start out as anything particularly special.
It wound up as something very special, the M3. The most epic homologation race car of all epic homologation race cars. This may be the winningest sports car in the history of the automobile. But the E30 started out as something a little bit more simple. Like the 2002 and the E21 it replaced, it was just a formal 2-door coupe. And at the beginning it had 2 duds of motors under the hood. A 20-year-old 4-cylinder and a straight 6 that revved all the way to 4,800 RPM. It wasn't until halfway through the E30's product cycle that it finally occurred to BMW, maybe we could have a little bit of fun with this. So then we got the 4-door sedan, the all-wheel drive variants, the convertible, and finally, at the very end, they made the wagon. This body style never came to North America, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the hottest E30 of them all. Why? 1, I'm missing the chromosome that most Americans have that makes them hate wagons. And 2, good luck folding down the rear seats in an M3 to try to fit some race rubber in the trunk. Not gonna work.
Whichever the body style, it was an engine added in 1987 that defines the E30. This was the 325i engine. Nothing special on paper, just another single-cam 12-valve straight 6. But now it revved to over 6 grand and made 168 horsepower. And it completely changed the E30 experience.
The M3 gets all the love in the enthusiast community, and back then, M actually stood for motorsport. This car had one job: to dominate the racetrack.
And it did it well, winning just about every touring car championship there was. DTM, BTCC, WTCC, you name it. And then it won rallies and endurance races like the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring 5 times, and the 24 Hours of Spa 4 times. But these days, everybody's M3 is in a garage gathering dust.
It's the 325i that's doing most of the racing. Witness Spec E30, one of the most popular amateur racing series in America. Why? Well, the M3 has been put up on a pedestal and mostly away in people's garages under covers. They're worth too much money to take out on the racetrack. 325i's, they're cheap, they're plentiful, they're tough as nails, and with a bunch of little tweaks, they're awesome on track.
And off track, and over the river and through the woods. But surely you'd never do that to your own car.
No, idiot! Come to New Hampshire and do it to someone else's car at Team O'Neill Rally School.
Of all the cars in the world, Team O'Neill chooses E30 325i's for their rear-wheel drive school. Why? Well, because the BMWs are impeccably behaved driver's cars and they're impossibly reliable. The school regularly buys E30s for a couple $100, stuffs a cage in them, installs a skid plate, and then sicks them on unsuspecting students. Or in this case, me. I've been beating on E30s for years, but nothing like this. This is the biggest playground for sideways stupidity in the world. Forget doing donuts in a parking lot. Rally School combines the art of sideways, something I'm naturally good at, with the science of being fast, something I'm not. Here, the Team O'Neill teaches me more car control tricks in one day than I've learned in the past 10 years. Including some advice about which trees to hit and which one to avoid. Apparently, you're always supposed to look for the softwood trees. Somehow, I managed to convince the O'Neill guys that I would hit no trees in their poor red E30, and so they dragged it to Club Motorsports, a racetrack in New Hampshire that's so new it hasn't even been paved yet. Why? Why not?
This poor car! I don't think I've ever beat a car like this, ever. I can't stop! I love this car! Oh my God! So, from an engineering perspective, there's nothing actually really all that special about an E30. Just an iron lump of an engine up front, steering wheel's really high, and the steering's slow and overboosted. But it's got strut front suspension too, which is nothing special, and then semi-trailing arms in the rear. And this is a suspension design that's been largely retired, mostly because if you lift in the middle of a corner, it throws you sideways. That actually helps on dirt. This car is tough as nails, and as soon as I lift, I'm sideways on every corner, but it's so controllable. This thing doesn't have ABS. There's nothing stopping it. I'm doing all the work, and it is so much fun! After spending an entire day doing everything possible to break the E30 and failing miserably, we thought it would be fun to get a lap time. So we sent out Wyatt Knox, who's an instructor at the Team O'Neill Rally School, to set a lap time. He's gonna try to break the record, which shouldn't be difficult because no one's ever driven here before, but you never know. .234.07, it's a record!
Okay, enough of that silliness. It's time to put E30 to pavement. This is a 1990 325i wagon. To be perfectly honest, it's my 1990 325i wagon. German spec, it's got 165,000 miles on it, and I've put way too much time into it over the years making sure it still looks like a brand new car. And though it still does a wonderful job at hauling groceries, I'm much more interested in it hauling ass.
This started out as a 2.5 liter, but I put a 2.7 liter block under it because I like torque. The 2.7 makes more torque just off idle than the 2.5 did at its peak, which made this car just a lot more drivable on the road. And we're not talking fast car here. It does 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds.
But it's a handler even against modern cars. I wanted to keep it drivable on the street, but I wanted to up the handling ante.
What I did was took the Spec E30 kit, which is springs, shocks, and sway bars, put that on, and then put really aggressive rubber. Now that it has the body control to deal with huge levels of grip, I can put really, really grippy rubber on it. And I have Toyo Proxys RRs, which are the spec tire. The grip is absolutely enormous. The body control is just perfect. This thing refuses to understeer, and it's a riot. And the thing is, it sounds like a lot of modifications, but it's not. It's like $1,000 worth of parts and a day to bolt it all on. This is stuff you can throw on and then put it back to stock if you don't want to track your E30. It doesn't take a lot of money or time to get this thing to be seriously fast on track.
No surprise there, it's a light car. This one weighs just 2,860 pounds despite all the wagony glass. And that's partly because it's got cranky windows, no AC, and none of the stuff you don't need. Oh, and the E30 is a tiny, tiny little car.
Want a visual reminder of just how small the E30 is? Look at it next to the current 3 Series wagon. There is a 920-pound difference between these two cars.
Can I drive it?
That?
That was a mistake. Sucker.
Well, I guess you enjoyed that, huh?
Jason, that's a nice little piece you got there. The level of grip is so high. I could just feel the speed through the corner.
I could see
really
the
well
speed.
balanced. Yeah, I mean, it feels race car.
Yes! Very cool. And you raced E30s, right?
You know what? I actually built an 87 E30 325 IS into a very mild race car 20 years ago.
Cool.
And I loved it. The exhaust note was what attracted me to it. And then it was reliable. We ran around, and your car stops really well. And I could not believe the turn in. Cracked the wheel and boom, into the corner. Very impressive.
One question though, how do you think this car would do, or a Spec E30 would do against like a modern 3 Series wagon?
Well, you know, compared to a current BMW, this E30's got a lot less power, but it is way lighter. It has got way more grip. I think that your wagon would kill a modern BMW wagon.
Yes, I was hoping you were gonna say that. That's why we brought this.
Oh, a 7 Series.
No, it's a 3 Series, but it looks so big next to that.
Wow.
Remember, the 325 was the fastest Mac Daddy non-M 3 Series you could get, and so is this. This is the new 340i with the brand new straight six, 320 horsepower,
Wow.
M Sport package, and then a track handling package on top of that. And what I want to know is, do you think my little wagon can keep up with this big non-M3 3?
It's gonna be handling versus power. I don't know, this sounds like a fast car.
320 horsepower, it's double.
Wow.
Double. Yeah, but I think you can do it. Okay, and here it is, the hot lap. On the left is my car, on the right is that new BMW 340i M Sport Track Pack. Notice that before we even start, the new car has a 10-mile-an-hour advantage crossing the start-finish line. Because of its power advantage, the new car has pulled a 1.25-second lead before the cars even got to the first corner. Here, the E30 actually pulls ahead of the new car. That means it's regained the more than a second it lost on the front straight. Look at the speeds and G-forces and you'll see why. The E30 averages 1.14 G around the bowl, the new car only 1.06. Since this corner leads onto the longest straight at the Streets of Willow, it's doubtful that lead will last for very long. And it didn't. When we got to this cone, the new car's back in the lead. It pulled 12 miles an hour more on the back straight and gained 0.9 tenths of a second back. But through those tight corners, the E30 gained most of that ground, and the two cars are once again basically tied. The 340i is just 0.13 seconds ahead. The straight is, alas, just a drag race, and the F30 winds up pulling back ahead. But it crosses the finish line just 0.56 seconds ahead of a car with only around half the horsepower. You see why enthusiasts swear by these old BMWs? With all due respect to the M3, the 325i is, dollar for dollar, the best E30 you can buy. It has one of the smoothest and best-sounding engines ever created by mankind, wrapped in a timeless, tiny little body. It's everything that enthusiasts ever wanted in a car, and none of the crap we don't. This is the car that made every other company want to be BMW.
To this day, if you mention the word E30 to a BMW engineer, they get violent. It may drive these guys nuts, but the E30 is still the benchmark watershed car for BMW. It's so good that Randy Pobst is still racing this one 25 years later. So good that our director Anthony actually bought this one during the filming of this episode. Drive an E30 and you too will understand why. If you don't drive one, you won't get it. On paper, this little BMW was nothing special. It debuted with zero new tech, none of the gadgets or gimmicks that today's BMWs pride themselves on. The 325i wasn't even trying to be a luxury car, it was only expensive because it was so well built. It wasn't trying to be a driver's car either, it simply did what its driver asked of it. And now, 25 years later, while all the M3s are pampered, it's the 325i that's being daily driven, rallied, raced, and most importantly, worshipped.
E30, E30.